sharp wail of a baby sliced through the stillness like a siren. Maria froze, clutching her rag mid-swipe, her heart thudding in her chest. She'd been cleaning the grand, silent mansion for just under an hour. Alone, she'd been told. But now, behind a heavy oak door on the second floor, a child was crying, muffled, desperate. She turned the knob. Locked. Who leaves a baby alone in a house this size? Where was the owner? Why hadn't anyone else come running? Her pulse quickened with panic and a strange pull she didn't expect. Maternal, protective. This wasn't in the job description. She looked around for a key, then dropped to her knees, pressing her ear to the door. She had come to tidy someone else's life. But what waited on the other side of the door would unravel her own and knit it back together in ways she never imagined. Angela Carter moved with practiced efficiency, her sneakers quiet against the marble floors as she polished the vast, echoing foyer. At 38, she was no stranger to hard work. A single mother of two, she had built her life around early mornings, late nights, and a quiet kind of resilience that only came from surviving on the edge for years. The newest job, cleaning luxury estates for an elite cleaning agency, paid better than anything she'd had before. It was a break she desperately needed. Rent was past due again. The electric bill loomed. Her teenage son needed money for school supplies, and her youngest, Maya, had outgrown her shoes. Again. Angela worked weekends at a diner and picked up freelance house cleaning gigs in between. Sleep was a luxury. Exhaustion lived in her bones. Still, when she got the call about the Jefferson estate, some rich recluse's mansion up in the hills, Angela had felt a flicker of hope. The pay was generous, and the agency promised regular hours. Today was her first shift. She'd arrived early, uniform spotless, a quiet determination behind her eyes. As she moved through the massive house, gleaming surfaces, untouched rooms, a silence that felt somehow too still, she couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't quite belong. The house was beautiful, cold and strange, but the job was a blessing, and she wouldn't risk losing it. She hummed softly to herself, thinking about dinner plans and homework help later that night. The quiet was calming, predictable. That's when she heard it. The sharp, unmistakable cry of a baby echoing from upstairs. Angela's heart skipped. A baby. Here? She dropped her rag, instincts overriding routine. The Jefferson mansion sat perched on a quiet hill, surrounded by tall iron gates and thick hedges that blocked it from view. As Angela stepped through the front door, she was struck by the sheer size of the place, soaring ceilings, glittering chandeliers, walls lined with art she couldn't name but knew cost more than her car. It was beautiful, but it felt cold, like a museum where no one lived. There had been no one to greet her. The agency had simply emailed instructions, along with a code for the front door. "Clean the main floor and guest bedrooms," the message read. "Do not enter the master wing." Angela didn't question it. Rich people were always particular. She started in the grand foyer, wiping down surfaces, careful not to disturb the ornate decorations. The furniture was expensive, velvet and mahogany, but everything felt untouched, staged. There were no family photos, no signs of life. Even the air smelled too clean. She moved through each room methodically, vacuuming the plush rugs, dusting shelves filled with untouched books. A heavy silence followed her. No creaking floors, no hum of appliances, just her own footsteps and the occasional swish of a mop. Despite the eerie stillness, Angela stayed focused. This job meant stability. Her kids needed her to keep it. But as she climbed the grand staircase toward the guest rooms, a chill ran down her spine. Something about the place pressed on her nerves. Still, she shook it off. The vacuum's low hum filled the upstairs hallway as Angela pushed it slowly over the thick carpet, careful not to scuff the pristine baseboards. She was halfway through the guest wing when she heard it. Soft at first, almost too faint to be real. A cry. A baby's cry. Angela froze, finger hovering over the power button. The sound stopped. She held her breath, listening. Then it came again, clearer this time. A wail, high-pitched and urgent, echoing down the hallway. Her brows furrowed. The agency had said no one would be home. There was no car in the driveway, no sign of life anywhere in the mansion. So where was that sound coming from? Abandoning the vacuum, she followed the noise, heart pounding with each step. It led her past the guest rooms to a section of the hallway she hadn't cleaned yet. At the very end stood the door, painted a soft ivory, the only one with a brass nameplate etched with tiny stars. She reached for the knob and turned it, locked. She pressed her ear to the wood. The crying was louder now, no longer muffled by distance. It was real, desperate. A baby was behind the door. Angela's mind raced. Had someone forgotten a child? Was the baby hurt? Why hadn't the agency mentioned this? "Hello?" she called out, her voice shaking. No answer, only the cries. Fear prickled at her skin, followed closely by a wave of instinct. Protective, maternal. Whatever was going on, something wasn't right. She looked up and down the hallway, hoping to see someone, anyone, but she was alone. Angela's hand trembled as she pushed gently against the nursery door. To her surprise, it was slightly ajar, just enough to slip inside. The crying grew louder, echoing off the pale walls decorated with faded stars and moons. Inside the room was a mess. Toys scattered across the floor, a blanket thrown over a rocking chair, and a small crib in the corner where a baby boy writhed, tears streaming down his chubby cheeks. His tiny fists clenched as he cried, desperate and alone. There was no nanny, no adult nearby, only silence beyond the door. Angela's heart clenched. She stepped inside cautiously, careful not to startle him further. "Kai," she whispered softly, guessing at his name from the initials on a stuffed bear. "It's okay, I'm here." She knelt beside the crib and gently lifted him into her arms. The baby's sobs slowed but didn't stop. Angela rocked him back and forth, swaying instinctively, as the old lullabies she remembered from her own mother's arms rose unbidden in her mind. His cries softened to whimpers, then faded to quiet sighs. His big, dark eyes locked onto hers, searching. Angela felt a deep, fierce protectiveness swell inside her chest, the kind only a mother knew. The room that had seemed cold and lifeless now felt different, warmer, full of something fragile but real, a connection neither of them expected. Angela knew, without understanding how, that this moment would change everything, for the baby and for herself. Just as Angela began to soothe the baby in her arms, the heavy front door downstairs slammed open. Startled, she turned toward the sound, heart pounding. Moments later, a tall man appeared at the nursery doorway. Mr. West, an impeccably dressed man with sharp eyes and a cold, commanding presence, stood silently, taking in the scene. His gaze flickered to the baby, then back to Angela. "What are you doing holding my son?" His voice was low but edged with steel. "This isn't your place." Angela straightened, feeling the weight of his stare but refusing to back down. "Sir, I heard the baby crying. I came upstairs and found the nursery door locked. No one was around. I was worried." His jaw tightened. "I didn't ask for help." "I know," Angela said quietly, but the house was empty. No nanny, no one answering. He was upset and alone. Mr. West's eyes softened for a moment as he glanced at his son, who had nestled into Angela's chest, calming under her touch. Then he sighed, the tension easing slightly. "This house, I've been dealing with a lot. It's not easy to explain." Angela nodded, sensing his struggle but holding firm. "He needs care, someone to be here. You can't leave him alone." He looked away, conflicted but silent. Finally, Mr. West spoke, voice quieter. "Thank you for stepping in. But you must understand, this is a complicated situation." Angela met his gaze steadily. "Then let's find a way to make it right for him." In that quiet exchange, the cold walls of the mansion seemed to shift, just a little. Mr. West gently reached out, trying to take the baby from Angela's arms. But the moment Kai felt his father's touch, his calm dissolved into fresh, loud cries, more desperate than before. Angela watched, concern growing, as Mr. West awkwardly stepped back, hands frozen in midair. "He's never done this before," the man said quietly, struggling to mask his frustration. Angela took a slow breath and held out her arms. "Let me try." As soon as Kai was back in Angela's embrace, the crying slowed to soft whimpers. His tiny fingers curled around her shirt, and his large eyes settled on her face with a trust that surprised them both. Mr. West stared, mouth slightly open. For the first time since he'd walked through the door, his rigid posture softened. He looked at Angela not just as a stranger, but as someone who understood something he didn't, something vital. This is new," he admitted, voice low. Angela gave a small, tight smile. Sometimes kids just know who's there for them. The tension in the room shifted. The cold distance between them started to melt, replaced by something fragile and real. In that quiet nursery, beneath the muted glow of the nightlight, a tentative bond began to form, not just between father and son, but with Angela too. Mr. West sank into a leather armchair, Kai now asleep in Angela's arms. The quiet in the room felt heavy, like the weight of unspoken truths. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice rougher, softer than before. "I wasn't prepared for this," he admitted. "Not the baby, not losing her." Angela looked up, sensing the pain behind his words. "My wife died giving birth to Kai." The confession hung in the air, fragile and raw. "I've thrown myself into work ever since. Endless meetings, deals, travel, anything to keep the hurt at bay." He rubbed his temples, eyes distant. "I don't know how to be a father. I'm scared I'll mess him up, so I keep my distance." Angela's heart ached. Here was a man who had everything on paper, wealth, power, prestige, but who felt utterly lost in the most important role of his life. "I thought I was protecting him by staying away," he continued, "but I only made things worse." She reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "You're not alone in this. None of us know everything about being a parent, but showing up, that's what matters." Mr. West met her gaze, a flicker of hope breaking through the guarded walls. For the first time, the cold millionaire revealed his humanity, a grieving husband, a scared father, and a man desperate to find his way. And Angela understood that sometimes healing starts with the smallest act of kindness. Angela looked at Mr. West thoughtfully, her voice steady but warm. "Parenting is hard, especially when you're learning as you go, but what Kai needs most is love and presence, not perfection." He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. "If you want," Angela continued gently, "I can stay late a few evenings a week, help with Kai, so you don't have to do it alone." He hesitated, pride and uncertainty wrestling in his eyes. "I don't know if that's appropriate." Angela smiled softly. "Sometimes we all need a little help. You're doing the best you can. That's what matters." After a long pause, Mr. West nodded slowly. "Okay, let's try." Relief and something like hope softened his usually stern expression. As the night deepened, the mansion's cold walls seemed less imposing. In the quiet nursery, an unexpected partnership began to take root, built on trust, respect, and a shared commitment to a little boy who needed them both. Angela felt a warmth she hadn't expected, a sense that this job was about so much more than cleaning, and for the first time in a long while, Mr. West allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone anymore. Days turned into weeks, and Angela found herself returning to the mansion more often than planned. Each evening she stayed later, feeding Kai, rocking him to sleep, and slowly teaching Mr. West how to do the same. At first, the millionaire remained distant, watching from the doorway or the kitchen as Angela cared for his son. But gradually, his guarded walls began to crumble. One night they sat down to a simple dinner in the grand dining room. The conversation started with awkward small talk, comments about the weather, the house, even the peculiar silence of the mansion. But as Kai babbled happily nearby, their words grew more honest. Mr. West shared stories about his late wife, his fears as a father, and his hopes for the future. Angela listened, offering gentle encouragement and quiet understanding. She was no longer just the cleaner, the invisible woman who kept the house spotless and left. She had become a part of their fragile new family. Mr. West even laughed one evening at one of Angela's jokes. A sound so rare and genuine, it felt like sunlight breaking through a long gray winter. In the warmth of those shared moments, something unexpected blossomed: trust. And Angela knew this connection would change all of them, binding their lives together in ways neither had imagined when she first walked through the mansion's grand doors. Slowly but surely, Kai began to change. The endless crying gave way to soft giggles that filled the nursery like music. His cheeks, once pale and flushed with distress, grew rosy and full of life. Nights became calmer, his sleep deeper and more restful. Angela's steady presence brought more than just care. She introduced routine, gentle discipline, and most importantly, love. Morning feedings, afternoon naps, bedtime stories, small rituals that stitched a sense of safety and comfort into Kai's world. She sang lullabies softly, whispered words of encouragement, and celebrated every little milestone: a first smile, a new sound, the discovery of his tiny fingers. Mr. West watched from the sidelines, sometimes hesitant but always attentive. He learned to read his son's cues, to anticipate needs, and to offer quiet comfort. Angela's patience and warmth broke through his walls, teaching him that fatherhood wasn't about knowing all the answers, but about being present, steadfast, and caring. The mansion, once cold and empty, now echoed with laughter and light footsteps. Kai thrived in this newfound love, and so did the fragile bond between father, child, and the woman who had unexpectedly become their guardian. In this small circle of trust, hope grew stronger, proof that even the most broken beginnings could lead to healing and joy. As the weeks passed, Mr. West found himself seeking Angela's advice more and more. What began as simple questions about feeding schedules and baby-proofing soon grew into longer conversations about parenting and life. One afternoon, Angela showed him how to secure cabinets and cover sharp edges, gently guiding his hands as he worked to make the mansion safer for Kai. Another evening, she patiently coached him through bottle feeding, encouraging him when he faltered. "You're doing better than you think," she said softly, watching him cradle his son with tentative care. Mr. West's usual stoicism cracked in these moments. "I never imagined how lonely this would be," he confessed one night, voice heavy with vulnerability. "The house is big, but it feels empty without her, and I wasn't sure how to fill that space." Angela nodded, understanding all too well. "I know what it's like to feel alone," she said quietly. "Being a single mom isn't easy. Sometimes it feels like you're carrying the whole world on your shoulders." Their conversations became a bridge, connecting two very different lives through shared struggles and hopes. In the quiet corners of the mansion, amidst baby toys and half-finished meals, a fragile but undeniable bond took root. Mr. West no longer saw Angela as just the cleaner. She was a teacher, a friend, and increasingly someone he trusted with the most precious part of his life. And Angela, for the first time in a long while, felt the stirrings of something she thought she'd lost: belonging. Together, they were beginning to build more than just a routine. They were building a family. Whispers followed Angela through the ground halls, quiet, sharp, and full of judgment. "A cleaner? In the nursery? Is that really appropriate?" one staff member murmured. At a business event, Mr. West's peers exchanged knowing glances. "I hear he's relying on his cleaning woman now. Strange choice for someone like him." Angela caught snippets of the conversations, each one a sting. She was just doing her job. More than that, she was helping a father and his child, but the whispers reminded her how invisible she was supposed to be. One afternoon, after overhearing a particularly cruel remark in the kitchen, Angela's eyes welled with tears. She tried to hold it in, but the weight of their judgment pressed hard. That evening, Mr. West found her sitting quietly in the nursery, holding Kai close. "I hear what they say," Angela confessed softly, "but I'm not sure they see who I really am." He looked at her, steady and unwavering. "They don't matter." Taking a deep breath, he continued, "You're not just staff. You're part of this family, and I'm proud of that." His words broke through the walls Angela had built around herself, wrapping her in a shield of respect and gratitude. In that moment, the mansion felt a little less cold. When Mr. West's phone buzzed relentlessly with reminders of a major board meeting, he didn't hesitate. Instead of heading to the sleek conference room filled with suited executives, he stayed home, cradling Kai in his arms while Angela prepared dinner. "This," he said softly, eyes on his son's peaceful face, "is more important." It was a small choice, but it marked a turning point. Slowly, work stopped consuming every moment of his life. He began carving out time, not just for Kai, but for Angela too. He asked about her day, listened when she spoke about her kids and struggles, and showed gratitude in ways his wealth never could. The walls of his mansion and his heart softened together as genuine care replaced distance and duty. Mr. West was changing, not just as a father, but as a man. And Angela, watching him grow, felt hope bloom anew for herself, for Kai, and for the family they were becoming. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mansion's grand windows, Mr. West invited Angela into his study. "I want to offer you a permanent role," he said quietly. "Not just as a cleaner, but as Kai's nanny or even family manager." Angela's breath caught. This was more than a job offer. It was an acknowledgement of everything she'd become to them. Her eyes simmered with emotion as she looked at him. I don't know what to say." He smiled, the first genuine one she'd seen from him in months. "You've done more than clean this house. You've brought it to life. You've brought us both to life." There was a pause, heavy with unspoken feelings. "I respect you, Angela, more than I've shown, and I care for you." Her heart raced, a mix of hope and uncertainty swirling inside. This was no longer just about work. It was a new beginning, one built on trust, respect, and maybe something deeper. Together they stepped toward the future neither could have imagined. When Angela first heard that baby crying behind the locked door, sometimes the people who seem like they have it all are the ones most in need of love. This story reminds us that kindness, compassion, and care can change lives in ways we never expect. If this touched your heart, please like, comment your thoughts, and share this video with someone who needs hope today. Remember, real love doesn't care about status. It sees the heart. Let's spread more love and understanding in the world, one act of kindness at a time.